In this nugget, we're going to take an overview of the 70-703 exam to get an idea of the content covered as well as the target audience, and we'll get familiar with our virtual lab environment and all the machines within, which is what you'll be using to follow along and get that crucial hands-on experience with SCCM. 70-703 is the most recent SCCM exam released in the first half of 2018. And very much like SCCM, this exam is a beast. It covers all of the primary components and features of the product. It consists of 5 objective domains, beginning with configuring and maintaining a configuration management infrastructure. This is the biggest section of the exam, and it's really all about post-installation configuration and maintenance of your site hierarchy and all of those top-level components. One thing you'll notice when going through these objectives, which I'll show you how to do here in a second, is there's nothing on installation. In fact, this exam begins right here post-installation. So we're going to throw a bunch of nuggets in before we even get to these objectives. That will show you how to design an SCCM infrastructure, how to prepare your site for installation, and then, of course, walk through the installation process. From there, we'll cover these objective domains from the top down. So again, we'll look at infrastructure, how to manage inventory and applications, how to deploy operating systems, and how to extend the management scope beyond our network and beyond our internal devices to those that are external to our environment. Now, one thing I want to mention is that if you are new to SCCM and this exam, I would highly recommend going through this course in order, sequentially from the top down, as these nuggets and these labs will build on each other as we go. Also, if you are here for the exam, I highly recommend getting familiar with these objectives, which you can access using the link below that'll take you right to the exam details for 70-703. Here's where that link will take you to the 70-703 exam details page, which contains all the relevant information you need about the exam, and you can even schedule it here. But what I really wanted to show you is if you head down here to the skills measured section, you will see those 5 objective domains. Here you can expand them to see the objectives themselves and the content covered within. So take a minute to familiarize yourself with these objective domains and the objectives within. You may find some terms and technologies that you're familiar with, as SCCM sits on top of a lot of existing Microsoft technologies such as SQL Server, Windows Server Update Services, and Windows Deployment Services, just to name a few. I should also mention that we have a nugget and lab for almost every single item on here for all of these objective domains. One more thing I want to show you here on the exam details page is towards the bottom, underneath, who should take this exam. The first section here is your target audience, which is enterprise desktop administrators, and the second section here contains your prerequisites. Candidates should have a strong understanding of networking, Active Directory domain services, Windows operating systems, both server and desktop side of things, and mobile device platforms. You should also have a basic understanding of PKI, public key infrastructure, and of course it always helps to have some PowerShell skills and an understanding of existing Windows Server roles and services, as again, SCCM sits on top of quite a few technologies. Let's also get up to speed on our virtual lab environment. Almost every nugget in this course will have a lab associated with it that you can use to, again, follow along and get that hands-on experience. If the nugget you're watching has an associated lab, there will be a link on the course page that you can click, and just keep in mind it does take a minute or two for that environment to fully spin up. The initial state of our virtual lab will look like this: a simple 5-machine network with 3 servers and 2 clients. As we progress through the course, we'll expand on this network. On the server side, we're going to have Windows Server 2016 Data Center Edition running on all of these, and on the client side, we have the latest build of Windows 10 Enterprise Edition. Most of our time spent in the beginning of this course will be on this monster SCCM NUG server, which has 32 gigs of RAM and 2 CPUs. Now, I did pre-install some of the core required components external to SCCM on this machine, such as SQL Server, Windows Server Update Services, WSUS, and IIS, Internet Information Services. Now, I just simply installed these and left them all in their default state. There's still some configurations we're going to need to make as we go through, and many other prerequisites that we'll need to fulfill before we get to installing SCCM on this machine. Next up, we have FileNug, which, as you may have guessed, will primarily act as our file server, but this is also going to play the role of whatever we need at that moment in time server. So while we'll be placing most of SCCM's site system roles on SCCM NUG. If we ever need more, another distribution point or another management point, we'll be using File NUG for that role. Next up, we have our domain controller, DC NUG, which will have Active Directory domain services on it as well as DNS. On the other side, we have Client 1 and Client 2 NUG, which will be playing the role of our desktop environments. So we'll be looking at how to configure, control, and manage these environments from SCCM. So this will give us a great starting point in the virtual lab. Again, we'll be extending this network as we progress through the course. For example, when we get to deploying operating systems over the network, we'll add Client 3 NUG into the mix. One thing I do want to mention is that we did associate a virtual lab with this nugget to give you the opportunity to explore the machines that we'll be initially playing with and to get familiar with the lab UI. I hope that this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.